Happy August, folks, and welcome to episode 192 of Hashtag AskGSM here today. I'm Graham GSM Matthews for August 2nd, 2017. Hope you guys are doing well. If you want to send in a question to the show, tweet me, please, on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights with your question. And last but certainly not least, drop a comment on this very video with your question. I'll include it in next week's edition. So before we get started, guys, one quick update here. Episode 200 coming your way in a little over a month. I mean, about 2 months, but it is the final week of September if my calculations are correct. I talked about it more in depth last week, so check that out if you haven't already. Episode 191 at the start of that video. I was throwing around the idea of doing a live video, which is still possible. Maybe we do live questions. I know on Google Plus or Google Live or YouTube Live, whatever the hell it's called. I've never actually done it, surprisingly enough. I have been on YouTube for 8 years. And I know it was only instituted a couple of years ago, but I have never done a single live stream here on YouTube in my near 8 years here on the channel. So, well, I think we'll do that. I think that'd be a great idea to go live. You guys can send in questions ahead of time, obviously, but also do them while the video is going live. And I've also talked about the possibility of having RJ call in, John, maybe Tom, Jason would be cool. Any one of those guys, or maybe all four, maybe not simultaneously, but over the course of the video, we can have them call in and answer your questions. That'd be pretty cool. So if you have any other ideas, be sure to send them my way on the Twitter machine, Facebook, YouTube, etc., etc. So let's get started here with your questions. Again, episode 192 here today from Rusty Rages regularly from YouTube. His question was, why is WWE so afraid of saying the words belts, pro wrestling, etc.? I never understood that. The funny thing is that you sent this in last week. They actually joked about this on Bring It to the Table. I talk about it more in depth. I already recorded the episode. For WWE Network and Chill next Monday, I review the latest episode of Bring It to the Table as seen on the WWE Network. They joke about how, like, oh, Corey Graves and JBL, oh no, there are no words we can't say. And then they go on to show footage, actual legit, non-edited footage of JBL and the other commentators for SmackDown saying the word structure 64 times at Battleground in the Punjabi prison main event. That's ridiculous. That doesn't surprise me, but it's very much ridiculous. But yeah, the reason they ban words like belts and pro wrestling, I'm not backstage. I don't work for the WWE, so I couldn't tell you exactly the reason. But people that used to work for the company will tell you, Vince McMahon has said, oh, a belt is what holds your pants up. It's not a championship title. It's a championship title, damn it. It's not a non-title match anymore. It's a title-free match. Stuff like that is fucking stupid. The belt thing, I almost get. It's still dumb, but I almost get it. A non-title, title-free, that's just pure pandemonium. That doesn't make any sense. Pro wrestling, they're sports entertainment. Pro wrestling is the old days of what pro wrestling used to be. Again, it's bullshit, but that's the way that Vince wants to brand his product. It's all about branding. They give people nicknames like the Architect, the Mechanic, the Big Dog, the Artist formerly known as, the Sensation, all this other weird shit, and it means nothing. It absolutely means nothing. The nicknames are just pure branding, the Lunatic Fringe. None of these people are what they say they are. What the hell is Burn It Down? What is that? What does that even mean for Seth Rollins? So, yeah, for stuff like belts and pro wrestling, I can tell you flat out it's because Vince thought it doesn't sound like an entertainment word. It sounds, cheap. It sounds carny. It sounds second rate. We need the best kind of words out there. Again, limiting the vocabulary of the commentators, in my opinion, is just foolish, but that's the way they function for a long time, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. As long as Vince is in charge, it's never going to change. AP450 from YouTube, thoughts on Moose staying with TNA/GFW for 3 more years. I saw that. Cool. I like Moose. I think he's come a long way. I think I was first exposed to him about 3 years ago in Ring of Honor, and it's crazy to think how far he's come in such a short period of time. I saw him very briefly back in 2014 when I first started watching the Ring of Honor product, and then I fell out of it for a while, tuned back in the summer of 2015. The guy was a lot better. He turned into a great performer and one of Ring of Honor's brightest prospects. And then he left the company in 2016, and maybe for the better. They really weren't doing much with him. He was having some good matches here and there. The guy's a crazy athletic dude, but they really were not doing much with him. I mean, was pretty obvious he was not going to be contending with a world championship anytime soon. So he left. He went to TNA. I think his original plan was to go to WWE, to go to NXT. They were scouting him, and why not? The guy's huge. He's athletic. Why wouldn't you want him? Which is why they're bringing in Donovan Dijak. The guy's a great athlete, and he's also very tall. Moose, same difference. Very tall, very athletic. Why wouldn't you want him? Well, apparently they didn't want him because he had a record of beating up women. At least one domestic abuse case from many, many, many years ago. And they were involved in a whole, like, they go through phases. Like, they don't hire people who fit the indie mold. If you're an indie wrestler, we don't want you. If, you're a great wrestler, we don't want you. We don't hire small people right now. They have all these different things in their head as to why they don't hire people at certain times. And I guess for whatever reason, coming off the Adam Rose thing last year with the domestic abuse case, they didn't want to hire Moose because of that, even though it happened a long time ago. So they passed, and maybe once again, once Moose's GFW contract was up recently, NXT once again showed no interest, so he re-signed to the company, which is where, he thrives. He's doing fine. There was a two-time and current, Impact Grand Champion. He's been utilized just fine. I think him staying there is for the better. And then by the time he eventually does go to WWE NXT down the road, he'll be a lot better even in the ring than he is right now. So I think it works out for both parties. Their second question, do you think the Macho Man was ahead of his time? That's a great question. I think honestly he was. I think the over-the-top, colorful character that Macho Man Randy Savage was fit perfectly within the era of the 80s. But at the same time, the guy was so fucking great in the ring. And I don't think he got enough recognition for that back in the day. I mean, I know people recognize his match with Ricky Steamboat as one of the greatest Intercontinental Championship matches of all time. But I think people were more focused. I don't know. I didn't live through 85 or 87, whatever. People weren't as focused on the in-ring action as they were the storytelling, which is part of what made that match great. Don't get me wrong, but Savage would thrive in today's environment with the... We don't have any of those type of... more often than not, we do not have, largely, those type of wrestlers that stand out in a big way in being a colorful character, in being larger than life, which is how WWE puts it. And I couldn't agree more. We need those type of wrestlers in today's WWE. Getting in, bringing in indie guys and great wrestlers is great and all, but Savage was the best of both worlds. He was an amazing worker, but he could also capture a crowd with his pure presence, with the capes and the robes and the glasses and the promos and everything about the guy. I mean, half the time the guys, when they were cutting promos back in the 80s, they were fucking on coke or some shit, because they had to have been to cut those kind of promos. So he may not have been able to cut that kind of promo today, but everything else about the guy screamed superstar. So I think he would thrive in today's environment, or even in the Attitude Era if he was around. Emmanuel A. from YouTube. Did you know, obviously John Cena's debut match against Kurt Angle in 2002. So did you know WWE imitated it for Orlando Jordan's debut? On the June 26, 2003 SmackDown held in Madison Square Garden, John Cena issued an open challenge for the start of the show, that was answered by Jordan. The post-match angle even included The Undertaker coming out to show respect towards the rookie, just like John Cena in 2002. No, I've never heard of that, honestly. That's crazy. I know of Orlando Jordan, obviously, but I had never heard of his debut such as that. I mean, I knew he was around in 04 and 05. Obviously, he won the United States Championship in 05. I didn't know he was around in 03, though. I guess he must not have been doing much in 2003. I don't remember him after watching pay-per-views from that time period. So it's pretty crazy they gave him the exact same formula for the John Cena debut. In Madison Square Garden, you would think the guy had a big, would have a huge, bright career ahead of him, but he went nowhere. I mean, obviously he was a good athlete, but they never did right by him, and he had some pretty shitty matches, and he just never worked out. So, I mean, I guess they pushed him to the top right from the get-go, or at least positioned him as a star to be, a star on the rise, and it went nowhere. So, thank you for informing me of that. I had never known that prior to reading your question. His second question, speaking of 2003, that same week included Raw also doing a show in Madison Square Garden. You may know the June 23rd, 2003 Raw for its main event, where Kane lost a World Heavyweight title match against Triple H that forced him to unmask. Have you ever seen the match and or the unmasking itself? I know of the match. I know of the unmasking. I'm sure I've seen the unmasking before. I know of it. It's a pretty iconic moment in Raw history, especially for that time period. So I know I've seen it at least at some point. Whether it was, not when it happened, obviously. I didn't start watching until 2008, but I know I saw footage of it on YouTube many years ago. It's on the network now. I'll probably watch the whole match at some point. I don't think I've ever seen the full match, but I definitely have seen the moment with him unmasking on that Raw, which to this day, people will tell you one of the dumbest things the company ever did was unmasking Kane. Even 6 years after his arrival, I think unmasking him was the dumbest thing they ever did. I mean, he was a hot heel at that point for the summer of 03, but it really took away from the aura of Kane. I mean, part of his badassery was the fact that he was masked and he put it back on and took it off, blah, 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 for so long. People just stopped caring about the guy. And got to that point by, by 08, 09, 2010, where he was just another guy in the roster without the mask. But anyway, yeah, I still think to this day, I know it's not part of your question, it kind of is. It's relevant, but not really. That unmasking Kane was a huge mistake, and they never should have unmasked the Kane character. And he's got 2 more questions here, his third one being, so I recently looked up every WrestleMania on the network and wrote down the length of each of them, not including the pre-shows. And I was thinking of doing a question on your hashtag 200th episode, hashtag AskGSM 200th episode, where maybe I quiz you and the gang on the length of the WrestleManias, or maybe just a question of what you guys feel were the shortest and the longest WrestleManias, example, which WrestleManias seem to drag on, etc. What do you think? Yeah, that'd be a cool idea. Definitely hold on to that. Again, it's not too far away. It's only a month and a half or so away. So hold on to that idea. I would love to play such a game. Like an interactive... I mean, I know all your questions are interactive because I answer pretty much 95% of them. But stuff like that in the live episode, like if you were to do that in the live chat, which I think, again, I don't follow too many live streams on YouTube, but from what I understand, there is a live chat on the video itself. So maybe if you put that in the live chat, or you do it ahead of time and I put it in the document for the questions, whatever the case, whatever your method, I think it's a great idea. So definitely hold on to that for next month for the big 200th episode. His last question here, I feel obligated to ask, do you know the Twitter account I linked to about that Jinder Mahal yell, @GifDDT? Well, it was originally known as @UnderhookDDT, but more recently changed his username to @GF Elite, @GIF Elite, GIF Elite, whatever, and apparently created a Patreon for people to fund his account. Somewhere over the past week, he started to insult everybody to the point of telling people to kill themselves and blocking them. He's now changed his username again to @Anarchism2020, apparently becoming a more political account now. Have you heard about him and the situation before? The weird thing is, I know you sent this question in like days ago. I didn't read it until right now, until putting the document together like on Wednesday the 2nd. So I saw people tweeting about this during Raw, not him specifically, but like the great Twitter GIF war and all this other shit. I'm like, what are people talking about? And I was going to tweet something else about it, tweet something out about it to find out more about what was going on. But I didn't have to because I found out what was going on after doing some research, my Twitter research, and finding out that people were like tweeting about his account and saying to block the guy and all this other shit. I honestly thought he was hacked. Because that was really 0 to 100 in no more than a few days. Like you said, how does one go from tweeting out wrestling gifs to telling people to kill themselves? Now, the old Patreon thing has been a problem with wrestling Twitter, and I'm sure other people on social media for a long time now. Not like years and years, but at least in the past year or so, I would say. I have seen Twitter accounts, like even people that have a few thousand followers. I have 6,000 followers. I would never ever ask people to pay for me to tweet about wrestling. That is fucking stupid. That is really, really dumb. Why anyone would ever pay you $10, $15, $20 for you to live tweet during Raw, who gives a shit? I mean, people might enjoy your tweets, but for people to pay to see your tweets is really, really dumb. I know you might have a private account. That's just fucking stupid. This is no different. Tweeting out gifts, making gifts, specific to people, and again, once people realized it was a bullshit campaign or scam, whatever, it was a hoax, people started to call him out on it, and he went off, and he started to tell people to kill themselves. So yes, I am aware of the situation, never followed him to begin with. It's a shame we lost a good wrestling giffer, I guess, but there's plenty more out there. There's plenty more great wrestling accounts you should follow other than @GifDDT or @Anarchism2020, whatever the fuck his Twitter handle is or was, whatever. Captain Sunshine from YouTube as well Have you seen The Majesty that is the Emoji Movie? It's a 5-star classic. The work rate was stellar. The psychology and the selling was top-notch. The crowd was white-hot, and the baby faces and heels all played their roles very well. I should also mention the commentary. It really made me want to play the Just Dance app, which is free on the iPhone and Android devices. So I'm not sure what this has to do with anything other than the fact it's a using wrestling vocabulary, but I'll answer it anyway. No, I have not seen the Emoji Movie. Funny story, though. When I saw the trailer many months ago, it looked like shit. And obviously, it is shit. When it first came out, I saw on Rotten Tomatoes it had 0%, a whopping 0%. That's almost unheard of for any movie not named Mall Cop with Paul Blart. Paul Blart, Mall Cop. Other than that, very rarely do movies get 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's how bad it is. Apparently, it got boosted up to 6%, but beyond that, the movie fucking sucks. So bad that at my local movie theater, we got it last Friday, it's gone tomorrow. It's gone, its last day is tomorrow. We already have Despicable Me 3, we have The Nut Job, or whatever the hell it's called, coming out, The Nut Job 2, one of those other kid movies, the squirrel movie, I don't know what it's about, I just know it's called The Nut Job. That's coming out, I think, in a week or two, but yeah, the Emoji Movie is no more. I mean, and Sony can afford a fucking flop every now and again, if only because Spider-Man was a raving success. The Emoji Movie, not so much, but you know what? I think we all kind of saw that coming. And to answer your question, no, I have not seen it, and I will not watch it. At Elena the Y from YouTube as well, how many backstage segments are so good that the live crowd does a celebratory clap after it's over? Not many. I mean, maybe you're referencing something that happened this past week. I didn't see anything, or at least I wasn't paying attention. There have been some pretty painful backstage segments, so for someone to clap once it's over because it was so bad that it needed to end, I've never seen that before, but I'm not denying it's happened. I've just never noticed it anyway. Their second question, how come the Roman Reigns, Strowman, and Joe triple threat match on Raw ended clean? Of all the matches they decided to do without shenanigans, they let their great balls of fire MVP Samoa Joe get pinned clean by Roman Reigns before they're all supposed to be equal threats to Brock Lesnar at the second biggest pay-per-view they have. So yeah, I was kind of expecting it to end in a non-finish. I respect that they did a clean finish, again, because they rarely do with big matches like that. They did a fucking DQ. They did a count-out with Bayley and Nia Jax, and then they did a DQ in the main event with Cass and Big Show. Both matches no one cared about. Yet the one match they care about, they do a clean finish, which, again, I respect that. On the bright side, Roman winning, let's not get all up in arms about it, people. If only because Roman, him winning here, probably means he's not winning at SummerSlam. The match was really good. The thing is that what else would you have done? You know, other than a non-finish, Brock was there, so he could have come out and just beat the shit out of everybody. But beyond that, what else would you have done? Strowman? I mean, I guess Strowman could have pinned Roman Reigns, which is not unheard of. He's beaten and pinned Roman Reigns a few times. Roman needed the momentum. Joe's got the momentum already. He's just fine. Strowman should not have gotten pinned. I think beyond the Roman Reigns loss at Fastlane earlier this year, he has not lost or been pinned a single time. From what I understand, anyway. I might be wrong, but he has not been pinned at all beyond that Fastlane encounter earlier this year. So, did Kalisto beat him? Or no, he beat him in the fucking dumpster match, which was also dumb. But anyway, yeah, Strowman should not have been pinned. Roman getting pinned would have been fine, but if he's not winning at SummerSlam, he kind of needed the win here, so I'm fine with him beating Joe. I understand why people would be mad at that, but I kind of took it for what it was. Their second question, SummerSlam 1997 is about to reach its 20th anniversary, which for the most part, most people will remember will mean the 20th anniversary of Owen Hart breaking Steve Austin's neck. Personally, though, the Owen Hart Stone Cold Steve Austin match is one that I firmly believe will be remembered, or would have been remembered rather, as a classic if the ending was different. What match do you think would be remembered better with an alternate ending? Definitely the one match that came to mind, and I'm sure, you know, it's different for everybody. Two things, actually. Another match just came to mind right now. First one being from that same year, the Montreal Screwjob. I don't know. I don't even remember how good the match was. But the thing with that match was that it was supposed to be this big, grand, anticipated rematch from WrestleMania 12 from 1996, a year and a half earlier, between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Now, I don't think the match was nearly as good as the WrestleMania match, But it doesn't even matter, because the Montreal Screwjob happened, and that's the only thing people remember from that match. A second match, kind of opposite. I mean, the match might have been pretty good with Brett and Shawn, but it got marred by that just controversial, historic finish. But on the flip side, a match that was pure shit, but people will only remember for the finish, is when the streak got broken by Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30. That's the only thing people remember from that match. For the most part, people like me and most wrestling hardcore purists will remember the match. It was fucking terrible. The build sucked. The match sucked. Easily one of Taker's, probably his worst match in the past 10 years of WrestleMania, since WrestleMania 23 onward. The Mark Henry match at WrestleMania 22 was also pretty bad. I'm not sure if this was worse. It's up there, though. The match sucked by, modern-day Taker standards. And the Roman Reigns match was not good either. But this might have been worse, if only because the build also sucked. So yeah, those are two examples that come to mind. Mark S. has got a few questions here from Facebook. First one being, if Brock Lesnar was to drop the Universal Championship at SummerSlam, who would you have him drop it to? And do you think he will lose the championship? You know, it's hard to say. Before Monday, I would have said he is absolutely dropping the title. But after they said Brock's going to leave if he drops the championship, and they really heavily hinted at Brock losing, I feel like Brock's going to win now, and they're going to stay on course and do Brock and Roman at WrestleMania, which in my opinion is a huge mistake, because the hot hand right now is Samoa Joe. And even if he put the belt on Braun Strowman, I would not complain. I just cannot see a scenario where Roman walks out with the belt. It's too soon. And what would you do, Roman and Braun again? For what, the fucking fifth time? They have great matches, but we've already seen the match 4 or 5 times. I'm good, guys. I'm good. A Roman-Joe feud would be fine, but I feel like it would make more sense if Joe was the champion and Roman was in chase mode. So that's what I would do. And then Roman takes the belt from Joe at some point down the road, and then we get Roman and Cena at WrestleMania. That's how I would book it, but to each their own. But yeah, I do think Brock should lose the belt. Will he? Remains to be seen, especially with the whole UFC talk and John Jones, the UFC, I think 214 it might be, later on this year. Just because that's happening does not mean Brock is absolutely losing the championship. He could still do the fight and work for WWE while also being their champion. And it's not like, oh, what is this going to do for WWE? Like, is it going to tarnish his image? Like, will it make the WWE look weak? Because, I mean, you look back to last year, there was a significant chance that Brock was going to lose against Mark Hunt. Obviously, he didn't, roids or not. He won the fight initially. So they weren't worried about it then, and he wasn't champion at that point, mind you. But still, they're willing to take risks and, have WWE, their biggest star, look like a joke, I guess, if he gets beat by John Jones, which is there's a good chance of. So, anyway, to answer your question, I think there is a good chance he will lose, and I think he should lose. In my opinion, there's Samoa Joe. Braun will get his time. He's the future. Joe will not be around forever. And I think now is the time to put the championship on him, especially after that loss at Great Balls of Fire. And then you could build the Joe and Brock at some point down the road, maybe at the Rumble or Hell in a Cell or a pay-per-view later this year. Joe and Brock, too, has to happen. Next question of his. Which brand's matches are you most interested in seeing at SummerSlam, and what other matches will you reckon will take place? Honestly, the only match I'm really looking forward to at SummerSlam is the Raw main event for the Universal Championship, Strowman, Reigns, Joe, and Lesnar. That's it. That's honestly it. There's other matches I think could be pretty good, like Ambrose and Rollins versus Cesaro and Sheamus for the Raw tag titles. Nothing confirmed yet, but I feel like that's the direction they're going in. The triple threat, triple threat number one contenders match between the Hardys, Gallows, and Anderson in the Revival. That could be pretty good. Bliss and Bayley might be up in the air right now with Bayley apparently injured. She suffered a shoulder injury on Monday's Raw in the match with Nia Jax. So she could be out for a while, and if so, then we get Sasha and Bliss. So it's not a bad consolation prize. I'm going to have to go with Raw. SmackDown is not bad. AJ and Owens has lasted a little longer than I thought it would. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have a good match, but I don't think the general anticipation for the match is there. As of now, I feel like a lot of people feel that the feud has lasted longer than it should have. And it's just not a hot feud. They had a great match on Tuesday. If they have another great match at SummerSlam, I'll be fine with it. Cena Corbin could go either way. Orton Rusev, it's fresh, but Nakamura Mahal, fresh, but Mahal, anything involving Mahal, I'm not going to be excited for. So, and Usos New Day, we've seen it before. I'm sure it's got to happen, but we've seen it before. And Naomi Natalya, I just don't really care. So Raw, I'm not like overly excited for any of their matches except for the main event either. But that being said, of the matches announced so far, I'm going to go with the Raw matches at SummerSlam over SmackDowns. I feel like I'm more excited for theirs as of this, video than I am for SmackDowns. His next question, if a dream match took place between Greg the Hammer Valentine and The Miz, who do you think would win? Random question. I'll go with The Miz. The Miz has been around for a long time. He knows his way around the ring. He knows how to cheat to win. I'm going to go with The Miz. Next question. Seeing as there are rumors of talent leaving the main roster and going to NXT, who would you move to NXT? A few names here. For the women, Dana Brooke. She fucking sucks. Why she was ever called up to begin with, when she was, I have no idea. And I know they wanted to do the Emma pairing, which went nowhere. Lana, too. Lana blows. I know they either put her with Rusev or put her in NXT. She could be the next Eva Marie where she doesn't really progress and gets nowhere, but it's worth a shot. She does not belong on main roster television. Now, for the guys, 2 from Raw, 2 from SmackDown. Not saying all 6 of these people have to go to NXT. I'm just saying likely choices or would-be good choices. From SmackDown, Mojo Rawley. If they're not going to do the Hype Bros as a tag team, you got to split up him and Ryder. So I think Rawley going back to NXT to kind of hone his skills would be for the best. Mike Kanellis. I guess they only really put him on the main roster not because he's main roster. I mean, he is main roster ready, but because they did not feel he would be a big draw on NXT. So, they didn't really feel like it was necessary to put him down there. But I would put the package down in NXT. They're already dead and buried in the main roster, losing 2 matches back-to-back to Sami Zayn in singles and competition and singles and tag team competition, respectively, last week. Back-to-back within 48 hours. The guy was solidified as a fucking loser. So I would put Mike Kanellis in NXT with Maria. I think they'd be a good pairing down there and hopefully booked better. From Raw, Kalisto, he is doing nothing right now in Raw. He never really got a singles run down in NXT, so him in NXT on his own would be pretty cool. And Apollo Crews, again, another guy that was called up way too soon. Way too soon. Not because he's not a good worker. The guy's a great wrestler. It's just because he never really did much of NXT to justify having a fan base or a fan following or any real sense of direction. The guy came up because it was that time of the year again to call people up, not because they had any plans to do anything of note with him for the foreseeable future. So yeah, again, Cruz, Kalisto, Rawley, Kanellis, both Kanellises, Brooke, and Lana. Next question of his, there are rumors also of John Cena appearing on the Raw brand after SummerSlam. What is your take on that? Fine, I guess. I would keep him on one show. I understand why they're doing the free agent thing. I don't agree with it. I think above all else, the dumbest thing they're doing right now is not explaining why John Cena is a free agent and why neither brand gives a shit that he's a free agent. If you're SmackDown or Raw, if you're Daniel Bryan, Shane McMahon, or Kurt Angle, why wouldn't you be trying to sign this guy? ASAP, he's John fucking Cena. So why wouldn't you be trying to sign him full-time to your show? That doesn't make much sense. So, again, him appearing on Raw is fine if they have a good feud lined up for him. Him and Joe right away would be cool. I would save that for WrestleMania personally, but they might be doing Cena and Reigns, so if they want to do Joe and Cena now, that's fine. Cena Strowman is something new. Cena Reigns, obviously something new. Him and Miz, been there, done that. Him and Bray Wyatt, God forbid, been there, done that. Him and Elias, maybe? That wouldn't be too bad. That could be all right. Would be a big feud for Elias. Not Elias Sampson, just Elias. No Drifter, no Sampson, just Elias. Who wants to walk with Elias? I was just texting RJ this morning and how much this guy has grown on me the past few months since joining the main roster. But anyway, Cena going to Raw, fine by me. As long as he doesn't win the championship as soon as possible, I'm cool with it. Taha K from Facebook, who would you choose? Who would you choose to be the next United Kingdom champion? Trick question. I would keep it on Pete Dunne. The guy is fucking money. But if I had to choose, Mark Andrews. Tyler Bate already got his run. Mark Andrews, I'm a big fan of. I liked his work in TNA. I think so far with the UK stuff, he's been a great asset to that division, whatever it might be. The guy's a great wrestler. He's over, so I would put the belt on Mark Andrews, Mandrews, whatever. If not, Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne should keep that belt for as long as humanly possible. That guy is great. Deshaun K from Facebook, his question was, should WWE have had the women's division on one brand and the Cruiserweight stay on Monday Night Raw, and the tag team division on another brand? How many times can we get these same matches of people in those divisions? No. I think I am more in favor of having tag teams and women's on separate show, on the women's divisions on separate shows. And here's why. The tag team thing, I kind of get having all the tag teams on one show, but I don't know. Just at the same time, a lot like with the women, it would be a more prominent issue. Like, people like Charlotte and Becky are doing nothing right now. What the fuck would they be doing if it was one women's division? Like, Alexa Bliss or Naomi would not be champion. Probably Naomi. I think they would go with Alexa over Naomi. But people like Carmella would not be missing Money in the Bank. Emma would be getting even less TV time than she is now, which is nearly impossible, but she would be. Sasha Banks may not even be on TV. So, no, I don't like that idea at all, because that's what we had before the brand split, and a lot of people weren't being used. We had the brand split, and people still aren't being used. And Mickie James is not being used. Nia Jax would probably not even be on the show, which is probably for the better. She might be called down to NXT, as she should be, because she's not all that good yet. But anyway, no, I like it the way it is. It's not perfect, but I think it'd be way worse if it was with the women on one show and the tag teams on another, because I feel like, even less teams and less women would get more opportunities. At E13A, we move into the Twitter questions now. So this was in response to a tweet I put out last night during 205 Live, saying that Tony Nese is basically the 2017 version of Chris Masters. That's how I feel. The guy's a great wrestler, unlike Chris Masters 10 years ago. But the whole, look at my abs, good look and all that other shit, the poses, screams Chris Masters, who, if you can recall, went nowhere in WWE. So, might not be the best comparison. So, at E13A said, does this include career trajectory? I don't think. You never know. Again, Tony Nese could be a lot more than what Chris Masters was. Masters got a big push from the get-go, which Tony Nese did not. But Nese is a way better worker. He's a lot better than just this one-dimensional character. He just doesn't have much personality. That's the big issue. So, anyway, I don't think he's going to get... he might. He might get jobbed out and released at some point. But, you know what? I'm going to say yeah. I'm going to think he ends up like a Chris Masters, just being an irrelevant member of the roster who gets fired, maybe comes back, and then goes to GFW, because they're just doing next to nothing with the guy right now. I know he won last night in 205 Live, but beyond that, does anyone really care about Tony Nese? They have done nothing to make me care about the guy at all. At Jeremy8911, his question was, if you get another superstar shakeup after SummerSlam, who would you have switch shows, and who would you call up? So switching shows, few people here. 3 from Raw, 3 from SmackDown. For the tag teams, I would put Breezango on Raw. I know the Fashion Files are great. We probably wouldn't get it on Raw, but they've already lost to the Usos. So I think they've already reached their peak. They got their shot at the tag titles. They lost. Time to move on. Putting them on Raw would be an interesting change of pace. If not Breezango, if not Tyler Breeze on NXT by himself. But I think Breezango's... they're more over now than they've ever been, so I would have them keep doing what they're doing. Then put the Hardys on SmackDown. That might come up as a bit of a surprise, and they're a big name for Raw. But they've already faced Cesaro and Sheamus a handful of times. They're already feuding with the Revival in the club. What else is there for them to do? And so maybe Breezango becomes a top babyface tag team in their absence. So that's why I would switch those two teams. And I feel like after the Hardys are done with Gallows and Anderson and the Revival, they'll split up, and it's too soon for that. I don't want to see them split up. I think they still have some more left in the tank as a tag team. So you put them on SmackDown, they procure those tag team titles. They face the New Day, they face the Usos. I think the matches could be pretty good. So yeah, Hardy SmackDown, Breezango Raw, Cass SmackDown absolutely. I know they want to push the guy. He's not going to get a push on Raw, where there are at least 3 or 4 or 5 other heels that are better than him on the show, higher up in the pecking order, including Miz, Bray Wyatt, Samoa Joe, Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman. That's 4 or 5 guys right there. So I would put Cass on SmackDown, where he has more of a chance to shine alongside Carmella, his real-life girlfriend. That'd be a great duo, with Cass just beating the shit out of James Ellsworth, and then they announce their on-air alliance. So that'd be pretty cool. They'd be a great fit for each other. Cedric Alexander to SmackDown too. I think that guy has a lot more to offer than whatever he's been doing in the Cruiserweight division. So Cedric to SmackDown. To Raw, Luke Harper. The guy's not even on TV. Why not? Who cares? I put Mojo Rawley too. Why not? Like I said, maybe Mojo Rawley goes to NXT, but if not, they got to split up him and Ryder. So I would put Raleigh on Raw too. Just a refreshing change of scenery for the guy. And his second question, who from the main roster would you send down to NXT during the rumored superstar shakeup? I already said earlier the guys and women that I would put down to NXT. At Reborn Again from Twitter as well, his question was, he's got two here, first one being, John's a great guy, by the way. Check out his podcast, check out his YouTube channel. He's been on Wrestle Rant Radio a handful of times. The guy's awesome. But anyway, his question was, first one being, shit, my mic just fell. Do you think that the 205 Live brand is beyond repair or can it be fixed? Good question. I know you've asked something similar before. To me, I would just scrap the show. I mean, it's not beyond repair. They haven't even tried to fix the show. Like, they haven't tried to do it live before SmackDown. They haven't tried to do it from Full Sail live, Cruiserweight Classic stuff aside. They've just been doing the same shit for the past 8 or 9 months by having these guys go out there and just die a death in front of a crowd that does not care about them. So, yeah. I don't think it's beyond repair. There's more that can be done to try to salvage the cruiserweights, but as of right now, nothing has really worked. I would just scrap the show and bring back Talking Smack. I'm just not a big 205 Live fan. The shows are usually good, but we have enough content as it is on Raw and on SmackDown. If the cruiserweight division is not going to be what we know it can be, then just scrap the thing and put these guys on separate shows. Just split them up. His second question, with the recent budget cuts by WWE to them scaling back their numbers of pay-per-views. Wait a second. His question was, I read that wrong. Will the recent budget cuts by WWE lead to them scaling back their number of pay-per-views? If so, which ones should they cut? I don't think they're going to cut back on pay-per-views. They should. I don't think they will. They'll cut back on stuff we actually want, like Talking Smack and other network shows and the Pyro stuff that's actually cool. The pay-per-views, there's just way too many, and I've said this before. I think a better format would be to do a pay-per-view every other month. That was the way that it used to be back in the day. Doing a pay-per-view every single month for both brands, doing like 2 a month, is fucking crazy. It's way too much. So that's what I would do. So yeah, I would get rid of pay-per-views. I would get rid of Hell in a Cell, which just has been unnecessary since the get-go. Great Balls of Fire might have been the best Raw pay-per-view since the brand split last year, but the name sucks, so I'd get rid of that. Roadblock, the name sucks. These are all Raw pay-per-views, by the way. I think Hell in a Cell is SmackDown this year. But anyway, I would do Hell in a Cell, completely pointless. Great Balls of Fire, pointless. Roadblock, End of Line, get rid of. Fastlane, pointless. So I would keep Elimination Chamber. Not a bad show. Not the biggest fan of it, but it's a bigger hook than Fastlane. And TLC is one of those gimmick shows that could go, but I really, really liked TLC last year. More often than not, the TLC shows are pretty damn good. So I would keep TLC in December, but I would get rid of Hell in a Cell, Great Balls of Fire, Roadblock, End of the Line, and Fastlane. Final 2 questions here at Scarlet One, or final 4 questions. I forgot we had someone else send in questions at the last second. At Scarlet One from Twitter, push, repackage, release, Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe. Man, this is a real tough question, and you're going to really hate me for this. I would push Strowman, repackage Reigns, and release Joe. And here's why. Love Samoa Joe. The guy is the best mic worker in the entire company right now, in my opinion. I think a lot of other people would agree. He's one of the best they have, but he's not the future. The guy will not be around likely in 5 years. Strowman will be. Roman Reigns will be, probably. Roman just needs to turn heel first, and then he's going to be fine. Braun, I think they're utilizing perfectly. They are with Joe too, but the only real difference between the two, other than Joe being a better mic worker, is that Strowman is going to be around a lot longer than Joe. So I would push Strowman again, repackage Reigns, and release Joe. As much as it hurts for me to say that, that's what I would do. Their second question is, Randy Orton as big of a star as he arguably should be? Awesome question. And no, he's not. He is not that big star I think WWE hoped he would be 10 years ago. Remember, he was primed to be the next big thing after Brock took off in 2004. That's why they gave him the belt as quickly as they did at SummerSlam. The push did not exactly work out. He's just not a great babyface. At times he has been, but by and large, he's just not a great babyface. Case in point, right now, he fucking sucks as a babyface. Turn the guy heel. When he's motivated and he's in a good feud, something new, then yeah, he can be a real asset to the show as a babyface. He can be popular, he can be compelling. Right now, he is the farthest thing from compelling. He really feels like he's just spinning his wheels right now. But anyway, the guy went so far as to call Christian out of retirement on Twitter recently to have a great match with him again. Coming up, it was ironically the same night as the Battleground main event, which was the worst match of 2017 for WWE today, if not every wrestling promotion. Fucking blew, and the match sucked, obviously. So anyway, if he's that desperate to have good matches with people, maybe being a babyface right now is not the best course of action. But going back to what I was saying earlier, the guy fucked up several times. He had a drug addiction early on in his career. He had a bad attitude. Had it not been for that, maybe he would have been as big as John Cena. People know who Randy Orton is, but he's not the guy. He's never going to be the guy. John Cena's the guy. Roman Reigns could be the guy in time. Randy Orton has never been that guy. He's been 1A. He's never been number 1. He's been 1A, though, just never number 1. And he never will be because of, like I said, they either pushed him too fast or he was just not over as a babyface. He wasn't a good, influence. He was doing drugs, had a bad attitude, what have you. Was never the guy, never will be. But yeah, for all that he has to offer, being as great for being as great of a wrestler as he is, he really should have been, a bigger star than he is right now, which is hard to even think about, but it's true. Final 2 questions. Finally, Matt Bradbard, first one being, do you think people would have had a big of a problem with the underwhelming matches we've seen from the Cruiserweights if we weren't treated to far superior action in the Cruiserweight Classic from beforehand? Yeah. I don't think the Cruiserweight division would be in a way better place. But yeah, I think the biggest criticism of the division is that it's just not the same wrestling we saw a year ago. Not even close. They have pretty good matches from time to time, sometimes great matches, but by and large, the matches are underwhelming because they're only given 2-3 minutes. They're really the divas of 2017. What the divas were 4, 5, 6 years ago is what the Cruiserweights are today. So yeah, I think that having the CWC, not to say, oh, screw the CWC, why did they do that? It really took away from the current Cruiserweight division. No, I mean, the CWC was some of the best wrestling they have ever done in this entire company's history. That's how good it was. So, again, but I think the CWC really spoiled people. Is that the right word? But that's what we should be getting. That should be that should be a huge example, a model to follow as to what this Cruiserweight division could and should be, but it's not, unfortunately. And final question, do you think people are being way too harsh on the Street Profits? And do you think they need to give them a fair chance? I've seen what people have been saying, and most people have just been dismissing them as a stereotyping Crime Time knockoff. They seem like they could be a really fun act. Also, Montez Ford, the guy who was dancing around on the truck, is a really good worker. I've seen some of the vignettes. Usually I skip through them whenever I watch on demand of NXT. But, no, I have seen the vignettes. I'm excited. You know what? I'm not oh my God, they need to be here now. But the thing is, we need teams in NXT. More teams, the better. TM61 are still out for right now. Authors of Pain and Sanity are all we got. TM61, or rather DIY, is no more. And what was the other team? Not the Bollywood Boys. Heavy Machinery. Just got their tag title shot and they lost. So, I mean, they're great. They're a work in progress. But we need more teams. And this is the answer to that solution, or at least part of the answer. Now, I like the idea of the team for a few reasons. One, it adds to the division. Like I said, adds to the depth of the division. Makes the division deeper, in terms of depth there, which is contradictory, I know, but it gives them more teams to work with. 2, they're finally doing something with Angelo Dawkins. I never thought the guy was great or anything, but at least he could stop doing that dumb fucking stirring pot motion he's been doing for years now. Just stop with that nonsense. They're finally doing something with the guy. And 3, where are people getting Crime Time? I mean, I can kind of see it, but what, because they're both black? That's so stupid. It has nothing to do with Crime Time. Crime Time, mind you, was a stereotype. Street Profits are not a stereotype. They look like they're a fun act. They're not a stereotype. Fucking Crime Time was a stereotype. They would air vignettes of these guys stealing things from people on the street and selling them at WWE events. That's fucking stereotypical. That's awful, looking back on it. It was funny at the time, I'm sure, for some people, but it's pretty bad looking back. Anyway, I know nothing about Montez Ford. I'll take your word for it that the guy's a good worker. But, just bottom line, NXT needs more teams. So if we get the Street Profits coming soon, hey, I'm all for it. And that does it, guys, for hashtag AskGSM here today for August 2nd, 2017, episode 192. A bit shorter than usual. Usually we run about an hour and a half, but We didn't get a ton of questions, but that's usually the way I like it. I don't like to answer a million questions and have the show go 2 hours. But I do want to make episode 200 special. Maybe it's our longest episode yet. I can pretty much guarantee it will be. If you guys send in as many questions as possible and we have as many guests on as possible, we'll have to wait and see. That'd be a pretty cool idea. But that's then. This is now episode 192. Thank you for checking it out, guys. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to share this video. All that stuff is amazingly appreciated. If you want to send in a question for next week's video, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant, of course, with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. Last but not least, drop a comment on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. And final announcement here. I already made this public a few days ago on the Twitter machine, but RJ and I are indeed Royal Rumble bound. Cannot wait. We're headed to Philly for Royal Rumble 2018, my first ever Rumble event. I've been to WrestleMania. I've been to SummerSlam twice, not this year, but the past 2 years. And that'll be my third Big Four pay-per-view. Survivor Series, if it gets closer. I know it was in Boston back in 2013. The worst pay-per-view I've ever seen. So I'm very happy I was not there for that. But at any rate, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.